Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Bugwatch. I'm your boy Swissley, and I'm here today to talk to you about Tyranids. Yeah, that old chestnut. I'm here specifically to tell you about my 3-day event at Coventry. So yeah, it should be fun. Hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully you learn something. I certainly learned a lot by playing 8 games with 80 Gants. So hopefully I can take something away from this. I won't gas on too long. Only to say like and subscribe. And if you don't mind, check out an event I've put in the description of this video. It is the Hertfordshire GT, which is run by a couple of friends of mine. The team's called the Toys of Mass Destruction, great name, and they run a really cool events in Harpenden, just north of London. So really looking forward to it. I'm booked on to go, and I was looking at the lineup. I was like, okay, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance that I do all right at this one. And then I've just seen Brian Sipes signed up for it. So that should be fun. So yes. All right, anyway, enough of all that palaver. Let's get on with the show. Boom, get rid of that. Okay, dokie. So what we'll do is just add my old screen. All right, let's do it. So we're going to talk about the Coventry 3-day. Let's do it. This was the list that I took. Just as a bit of a refresher on Coventry 3-day, it's a 3-day tournament. It has 8 games. 3 on the first day, 3 on the second day, and 2 very painful games on the third day. It's good fun. And one, I've done it before. I got a 4-4 when I was, I think I was playing like Marines back in those days. But yeah, a long time ago. But I really enjoyed it. It is properly an Iron Man, so to speak. Really, really good fun. And I was just like straight away, as soon as I saw the tickets and I had that weekend free, I was like, let's do it. I went there with my friend Max. Max is a Drakari player, RIP, and he decided to take my World Eaters, and it was really good fun watching him play World Eaters. So that brings me to a very good point. So what were like the key factions at this event? Well, the key factions at this event were World Eaters. There was 12 World Eaters players. There was 12 CSM players. And there was 12 Imperial Guard players because the Aquilons had just come out. Now, I think I would have preferred to go into probably 3 CSM or 3 Guard players, potentially, more so than what I did go into, which was World Eaters 3 times. It's a bit of a spoiler. Here's the list that I took. We have a Tervagun, a thick Tervagun with adaptive biology for the 5-up Feel No Pain that turns into a 4-up the turn after she takes damage. We've got Old One Eye, spoiler alert, 2 Carnifexes later in the list. All with Death Spitters. No, not Death Spitters. Yeah, Death Spitters. So we've got tons of shooting. Really great on Overwatch. Blah, 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 blah. We've got a Neuro Tyrant. Neuro Tyrant is there. A few different reasons. Obviously, the Neuro Tyrant's kind of good at a lot of things, but not amazing at anything. I actually really wanted a Neuro Tyrant so that she could point at the Carnifex blob and say, hey, you have Synapse and you now have a 5-up Feel No Pain. That's what I really wanted her for. But also, the added benefit of having a -1 to leaderships for Shadow in the Warp is nice. Just screening, because she's got quite a big base in a way. All that kind of stuff was just beneficial. The Flamer for Overwatch, yeah, kind of nice. But really, I wanted something that could be Synapse for the Carnifexes. I was thinking about a Parasite in Mortrex, and I thought it'll just die because they're rubbish. I could have given it, I would have had some points spare after having a Parasite, but I just thought, God, my opponent's going to get assassinated and just murder it. So I don't want it to be up the board. I want it to be a good 18 inches away from my Carnifexes. Right, so there's the characters. We then move into Battle Line, and this is like kind of the key thing about the list. It's 4 times 20 Termagants with Spine Fists and Stranglethorn cannons, Strangle Webs. Or as we like to call them, the horse cock gun, because it looks like a horse's cock. They do their thing, and we'll talk about like a little bit about how I use them as we go through the games. We've then got a Biovore because as much as I'm screening out my own deployment, the way that the terrain's set out, and you'll hopefully see that the terrain's a bit you can't really screen out everywhere really well. So I thought it was definitely worth bringing one. And of course, engage and behind enemy lines. Behind enemy lines having 3 points for 1 unit is super good. So yeah, in there. 2 Exocrines, 2 Rupture Fexes, a Lictor, 2 Carnifexes, as I mentioned already, and then 3 Venom Throw-Ups to give all the Termagants -1 to hit, and notably all the monsters cover. So really good. Yeah, you can see here how I went. I went 4-4. Well, we'll go through the games, but you can see there what the scores were. You know, I actually am a bit disappointed looking at it now, having gone to an RTT after this event, so last weekend, and scored a lot better. And we'll have a chat about that as at the end, because I'll speak about that a little bit as well. Anyway, let's crack on about a bit more about about how the list works, what I was thinking when I built the list. Move the page, right? Okay. So this is a bit about termagants and how I was trying to use termagants. One of the reasons why I really thought, hey, maybe we can do a bit of jank with the termagants. So the terrain at the UKTC gives you the opportunity to do this in and outy, right? This isn't new. This isn't big brain stuff, but it is just, you know, you stick a termagant out there, your opponent gets to interact with it the way they want. So you can see on the left hand side how I interact. I put all the boys behind a wall, essentially an inch away, except the top ones, they can be an inch close as well, right against the wall, so that I can have coherency to the one guy who's on the other side, sitting on the objective with the sunglasses on, enjoying life. Okay, so then your opponent's turn comes around and they have to deal with it. So the beauty of termagants is if you've got a World Eaters player or a combat army jumps over the wall, haha, I've got a 6-inch charge, you can then roll your d6 to reactive move, and then you move an inch away from the wall, happy days, as long as you do not roll a 1 or maybe a 2. I can't remember now. But, you know, realistically, you can get over the other side for the most part. So I think you need a 2. You need a 2. So great, perfect. So that's how you deal with a combat army, and that's it. That place. Of course, you inform your opponent that you can do this, and you know, so that they have the full information. That means then that yes, you do lose primary for the next turn, but they should have a unit in the open, exocrines, bang bang, job done. Right, very nice. We then have the shooting matchup against like Tau or Guard or something. They get to activate once into that unit. Then you take away that one against the wall, and then you take away some other ones, but you leave the guys against the wall, and then you respawn in your command phase to take that objective back, and everyone's happy. You hear the crowds cheer as you score primary. So it's very nice. That was my thinking, building around the Gants. And then this is just a bit of how I was trying to plan out where I wanted to be. So this is another map. You can see how this map's working. You can see where I was doing the termagant shenanigans here. A little bit more difficult here, to be fair, because you've got this open bit of terrain here. But you can work around that with heroics and threatening different bits. So these red squares are the shooting angles that I'm trying to get. That's where I want my guns, because this red line is where I want my termagants. The termagants go there, my opponent runs into them, punches them, and then he's stuck out in the open for my guns to shoot them. Very nice. That's the plan. Is this going to move? Yeah, okay. And then just to give you an idea about why I went with the Carnifexes. So I played a game without the Carnifexes. Essentially, I played Sam Pope's list that he did really well with his 80 termagants and 10 hormigans. I played around with it a little bit, because what I found was I put all my stuff in here, right? All my stuff. I had 10 hormigans here and stuff like that. I had a couple of bits, 10 hormigans and a lictor. And that's just not enough to really hold this flank. So I played around. I took out a Hive Tyrant because I felt like I was swimming in CP. And I got my Neuro Tyrant and I got my Carnifexes. And I decided that these Carnifexes' job was to essentially get to my opponent's deployment zone. And that was nearly every game that was like, right, their job is to just be really super annoying to my opponent and really hassle them and distract them from how I'm scoring points, which is all of my termagants, right? So if you don't have anything like this to distract them, then your opponent just says, okay, great, I'm going to start everything on the board, and I'm going to then just put my entire army into those termagants and murder them, right? Then you've got none left. So it's a disaster. Yeah, that's really the top and bottom of it, is just trying to cause a bit of a distraction, literally a distraction Carnifex. So yeah, that was the plan. That was the plan. All right, let's just see the chat, see how things are going, make sure there's noise going on. What day is it? Yes, sorry, Gordo, Scurvy Gordo. Apologies. Why I wasn't live on Monday was because actually I was in hospital. I had an endoscopy where they stick a camera and some scissors or something down your throat because I've had like this weird thing in my stomach, and my voice did not want to play on Monday night. It barely played yet on Tuesday. Was fine yesterday, so I thought let's do an impromptu show tonight. Yeah, so cool. Christopher Richard, I honestly don't know what the horse gun sculptor was thinking. Yeah, I mean, it really does. It looks like a horse's dick, man. And then Roly Poly Esquire, Woo Gants, exactly, man. I love Greg's list. Greg's list is really interesting. I would love to play it. And then, JP's lists are really good because they've got all the guns, all the big monsters. But I am a man after little diddy bits. Little gaunty boys. That's what I want to do. A little bit different, catching people out, right? For context, there was 90 termagants at this event, and I was 80 of them. So yeah, let's go. It was obviously OP termagants. Right. So let's go into the games. Now you know what I was thinking. Now you know what I'm trying to do. Let's talk about games. All right. So this was the first game against Ryan Goodwin. Really nice lad. A newer player from the Black Crow team. If you don't know the Black Crow team, where are you? They have a channel that you can go and see. They have really good shows. Sam Dickinson, who talks about World Eaters. Maybe I play him this tournament. He's got a really good show on there. You've also got Aaron and his Custodies bits. He's great as well. And they also just have good chat. You've got Toby in that team as well, who's really nice lad. Ryan's a newer player. I think it was his first UKTC event. So he's brought with him He's brought with him Necron's Hypercrypt with triple Doomsday, Silent King, lots of scoring, so many scoring pieces, and one Satan. So with it being Hypercrypt, I know my goal here is to flood the board. I don't usually play as aggressive as this, to be quite honest, but I know I've played Hypercrypt before with this kind of stuff. If you flood the board, they can't do their shenanigans, and you kind of just like win by default. So that was the plan. How did it go? Well, what would happen is I would do my innie outie in the middle, and it worked to an absolute T. So Ryan would put something out to try and kill the Gaunts, and then he'd kill a couple, but then I would absolutely destroy that unit with Carnifexes or Exocrines, blah, blah, blah. And eventually he just kind of ran out of stuff because he was trying to do everything all the time. And when he'd run out of stuff, and you can see here, he's really just got the Satan, the 3 Doomsdays, and the Silent King. And we took it from there, really. So really, really good. Obviously very happy with my primary here. Being able to terraform with all this OC, like Hypercrypt can't really push you off very well. So I was quite happy. I was disappointed with my secondaries. I think my secondaries could have been better, to be honest. Ryan did actually better than me on secondary, so well done to him. Still managed to get a load off, which is good for him. Yeah, there was some interesting things that happened here. Oh yeah, so he went for a secret mission, and he got it off. So he managed to get the Silent King on my deployment zone objective last turn. So yeah, well done to him. Very good. I tried to cover it in Gaunts, and he still managed to get them all off, and then yeah, he took it off me. So really well done. It was good fun. I do love it when a secret mission comes off, but I still win. That's the key thing. I only like it when I win with the secret missions. The MVP in this game was all One Eye. So you can, and his friends, you can see them here, right? So they started over here. They make their way around here, keeping a line out of line of sight of all these Doomsday arcs. Then they moved here. They got shot now because he was very concerned about them and thought, well, I might as well kill a couple. And then they did the whole surge into his unit. After he killed the Doomsday, eventually, I think it took them 2 turns. He then ended up on his deployment zone, but then got bodied by the Silent King. So that was quite fun. So yeah, good game, really nice guy. And we move on to game 2. So we're 1-0. Now we are up against Andy Plummer with a World Eaters list that pretty much I've played before. So I've actually taken this exact list to a tournament. Really nice lad from Leeds. That's pretty much another running theme from this event, just playing people from Leeds. His list was all 8 bound with a bit of flex for 2 Forge Fiends. So you've got all the shooting, and you've got that option of sticking Angron next to them, like you can see he's done there, for reroll hits and then just absolutely bodying Gaunts. So that was definitely something that happened. It was a big concern as well, right? So that was definitely something I needed to be prepared for. A little bit here of spending the CP to go to ground and then having that 6-up invuln, because the 5-up feel no pains, no point in doing that against the old Forge Fiends. So what is my thinking going into this game? Number one, and this is the same for every single World Eaters player that I played this weekend, is stop him getting in between your lines. When I used to play Unending Swarm, I played against World Eaters and I lost the game by very narrowly because I left like a 4-inch gap in my screens and the guy just ran straight through it. I knew I had to stop that happening. On UKTC terrain, Angron is very limited on where he can go. So if I literally put Gants in the way, like you can see here, like I've just put Gants there, and I can still reactive move if I have to make sure he just doesn't land. So I don't want him to threaten my T-Fex. I want my T-Fex to get as many activations and shoot him as possible. So you can see here he's been very defensive, and rightly so. He does eventually go around here and fight the Carnifexes and leaves all One Eye on a wound. To which all One Eye then says, uppercut, and does him in, which was quite nice. Yeah, so that was how I was planning the game out. Screen, activate. As I mentioned on that red, that thing before, here's where I want to be. I've got my angles right up the middle here if I need them. I'm trying to screen out these 8-bound from getting into all this mess. I actually played really badly here, and I reactive moved my Gaunts to here to block the Lord Invocatus when he came over to charge. Terrible idea, because actually he then charged these guys into the Gaunts, killed them all, and then the Lord Invocatus got to pile into the Lictor, absolutely negating my fight first. Not that my Lictor would have killed it, but still would have done some wounds, would have been nice. Eventually what happened was the Lord Invocatus got into a fight with an Exocrine and a T-Fex that lasted, I think, 3-4 turns. So yeah, really cool. I think where Andy went wrong here is, and we'll see this in the later games when I play Sam, he fed me units. So Angron came in, I could deal with Angron, kill him. These lot came in, I can deal with them, kill him. And then finally the 6-man comes in up the top, I can deal with that, kill it. So when I'm fed stuff, I could deal with it. And this got me into a bit of a false sense of like hope, because I thought everyone was going to play like this. That's not what happened. The MVP in this game was T-Fexes, because they absolutely love blowing up Forge Fiends. So yeah, let's get the next game. Right. We played Patrick with his all fight, no chill Space Wolves. We're a super nice guy, Patrick. We're both feeling the same. I very rarely win both my first games at a tournament. It's just something I don't do. I usually lose my first game because I'm tired and just not really woke up yet. But we're both 2-1. We're both like, hey, like we're the average players. We're doing good. All right. This was an all-fight Space Wolves list. It felt a little bit like deja vu. It was kind of like, hey, we have World Eaters at home. So, but actually this was more savage than World Eaters, because all the chain swords, all these bodies is a red flag, because my Exocrines have to activate as many times as possible so that I can do well in this game. I was concerned about his threat ranges, and I was concerned about him going first and just full yeeting, because he does have a strat to advance and charge. So I kept one of my Exocrines in reserve. A mistake, to be sure. So yeah, all those bodies, my Exocrines love them, but I just need to get to activate them as many times as I can. What actually happened was turn 1, I did awesome. Got my screen out, as you can see here, and he hated this. He hated it. He was like, oh, how do I get around it? Kind of, I just have to stand in the middle and then die. That's not good. It was going to be like the last game. It was going to feed me things. So they all die, essentially to Wolfen, I believe it was. Wolfen and something else. I then activate into all those things and whittle them down or kill them, which is great. But I don't put out the same screen again. I put out slightly different screens, which just left a big door open for Patrick to come in, and he did. And he knocked on the. He didn't even knock on the door. He just opened the door and kicked all my walls in. So it was not pleasant. He was lovely, by the way. His dice was hot, which he said, not me, and it's fine. That happens. But he also he had shit dice in the previous game, so that's fair. It's about fair. But I would say he made the right call to push when he did, and he absolutely did. I led with the Tervigan here. because I knew, and I wish I kind of thought about this a bit more, but I knew that I had a better chance with the monsters against all of his fighty stuff like chainswords and what have you, even though he had lethals. But I've got a better chance with all them and the T-Fexes and things like that than all the Gaunts do. So I wish I led with more T-Fexes rather than the Gaunts. And yeah, that's about it really. The Tervigon actually did really well. It was probably my MVP. Um, it was hard to find an MVP in this game, to be fair. I did struggle because again, I just got the macro strategy wrong, really. Micro wasn't too bad. I ended up actually pulling back a little bit towards the end and then just getting like rubbish secondaries and not like there was a small chance of I got good secondaries, but I just didn't, and that was it. Patrick played really well. The Gaunts just melted away, and that was that. Groovy. All right, let's get to the next one. So it's at the end of day one. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm 2-1. Actually, you'd have said to me at the start of the tournament, hey, you're going to be 2-1 after day one. I'd be like, sick. Yeah, count me in. Went for a curry, was lovely. Found my hotel, was terrifying. Awful hotel. And I slept, I think, 3 hours. So I was a bit tired. But I get there full of beans the next day. I see my parent actually the night before, and it's Scott. Scott, Yorkshireman, lovely guy. Really good player. I looked at him on ITC points because I'm an absolute. I probably think too much about 40k, and I was interested to see what his ITC scores were. He had a full 400 points more than me, like a lot more points than me. So I was a bit scared here. And guys, I won't lie to you. If you run a Tyranid-based show on a 40k channel, you can't be losing the mirror because people will say you're rubbish. So I was like, okay, I need to win the mirror. I need to, because I know what I'm talking about. I had the advantage on Scott because he's usually a Sisters of Battle player, and he was just playing around with Tyranids, trying to get his head around them, and experimenting, things like that. I say he's experimenting. He went 6-2, so not bad, mate. Not bad. Congratulations. So his list was a more typical invasion fleet list, which was, kind of, not 80 Gaunts, let's call it that. Loads of options to try and do things, loads of tools for jobs, which is really cool. He had 3 T-Fexes, which meant that I really needed to outmaneuver his rupture cannons because I only had 2 T-Fexes. And I couldn't just play rampant with my exocrines because they will just melt to a rupture effects. However, he did have 2 units of warriors. Now, I identified these as a key threat because they've got all the attacks they need to kill 20 Gaunts. Whereas a T-Fex, I can just charge it. I can just be next to it, and I'm going to be there forever. The warriors needed to die. So I put 1 exocrine in reserve. I put 1 on the battlefield. And the one that was in reserve came in turn 2 over on the right-hand side here and bodied a unit of warriors that was there. Got them down to just 2 warriors remaining, which at that point I'm like, okay, I can deal with that with my Gaunts and things like that. So it was very good. So that was my strategy going into it. Get the warriors, play safe-ish with the rupture fexes, use the angles to try and deny shots, but then get the shots I wanted off. And I think I did this really well. I killed T-Fex turn 1. I think I killed the Swarm Lord turn 2. Killed the Neuro Tyrant eventually. Exocrines as well. So I was like, okay, this is going okay. I didn't lose too much to start with. I did lose the exocrine over here, but as you can see, I've still got most of my army left. I think this is turn 4. Because, yeah, I charged through the wall turn 5 and try and touch his objective. My opponent had terrible dice. He had terrible dice. And there was a few positioning mistakes that he made. He brought in Gargoyles without respecting the Overwatch of Termagants. And the Termagants bodied them to 1 Gargoyle, which was pretty rough. So I think overall, I think I was very lucky. It was a lucky game in a sense, I think, with his dice and things like that, but it was a good game nonetheless. I rarely say that I play well, to be fair, and I think I did play well in this game. Gaunts with the MVP here, just racking up primary. However, to be fair, I think if I played better with them in this game, I would have scored more primary. But hey-ho. Right, let's go to the next game. The next game is against, Sam Dickinson. Oh, Sam Dickinson, you devil. He put me in the bin completely in this game. His list was all killer, no filler, 8-bound. However, a Rhino with 10 Berserkers and Massive Executioners. So I'm trying to do the same thing as game 2 here. So delay their go turn as much as possible. Activate. as many guns as possible. So we do the same. We push out the gaunts. You can see the line here. Push them out, and I did. I got them all along here, or just about there. And he kills them, and then then the next unit like moves up, and I did okay with the screen in turn 2. However, Sam made this kind of really interesting thought process. So his turn 1, he wasn't feeling very comfortable, and I was feeling comfortable, and I was like, okay, cool, we're good. Turn 2, so he really thinks about it. He takes a bit of time, and he goes, if I put everything out in front of your gaunts, there's no way you can deal with it. And I was like, that's a really interesting point you've just made there. So he did, and that was that, really. Yeah, so he put everything out, and he got his berserkers and massive executioners through the wall to fight all one eye in his unit, bodied them nearly to the bone, to be fair. And then my gaunts were here, so Angron couldn't get through. So the gaunt screen worked with Angron. I then put my entire army into Angron and got him down to 1 wound. The Feel No Pain was rich that day, and got him down to 1 wound. Angron then casually flies over the screen of gaunts that's left and jumps into the T-Fex and one-shots the T-Fex. However, the T-Fex then explodes, which is very nice, and kills Angron, who then explodes and then kills everything around him. So it was a really, really fun little moment. You know, there's some things in 40k, you're just like, that was a cool moment. Happy days. Yeah, so it was very nice. The Feel No Pains were so good in this game, especially on the 8-bound. The Exocrines do really well when killing them, but Sam's a clever player, and he just knew that he needed to have that Feel No Pain up. And every time I'd like get 4 wounds through, only 2 would die, and I'd be like, oh, this is killing me. But yeah, so Sam essentially just played this really well for me. He turned to, he worked out how things were going, and he said, okay, you know, essentially the smooth brain player putting everything out is actually the big brain player. He did really well. The MVP of this game was my T-Fex that exploded. That's how I felt about my performance. All right, then we played Lee. Apologies, I've spelt Lee wrong here. Lee is a Vanguard Tactics player, nice lad. Unfortunately, we never got past round 3. He's actually done a video on his experience on the Vanguard Tactics channel, and you can see me staring at the table in disbelief. And it's only because I didn't know he was actually recording me. So I'm just staring at the table waiting for him to finish talking, because I thought he was just like doing a piece to camera or just looking at the table. But no, you just get to look at me looking all salty. But yeah, really nice lad. Unfortunately, we didn't get past round 3. You know, every tournament there's always a game where I go, I wish I used the clock, and I do wish I used the clock here, really. I would have been able to manage my own time better, but also I think he would have been able to see that activating your entire army all the time does cost a bit of time. So his list really fun. So it was no Angron list. I was obviously pretty happy to see no Angron. There's lots of other threats, but I was like, okay, I can deal with other threats because we've got the Exocrines and we've got the Carnifexes. Well, we should be okay. Let's do the same thing again. We screen and shoot. We have that big long line of gaunts. That's their job, to get charged. And then here's the Carnifexes, and their job is to bait out a charge. I didn't think he'd do it, and he did it. And actually, it kind of worked for him, because he killed the 2 Carnifexes with a really good roll, and then I was just left with all one eye again. So yeah, I was like, oh, bollocks. We both terraformed early, so that was really good for primary long term. I think it's better for him to have done that, because my job is to score primary here. That's how I win the game. We kind of, as I say, we got to turn 3, and he had a good lead at that point. There's nothing, you know, turn 4 and turn 5. We talked about it, like even in his video, he says I'd have tabled him. I think, yeah, I would have, and I probably would have won, like doing the math on it. But you know what? It was by the by. Whatever. It was a nice game. We had a good time. It was fun. I think he learned a lot from this game in terms of how to deal with hordes. For example, he put in 3 charges in this bit here. So these guys went in and these guys went in to here and here. One of them got to activate, and then I took them all out of combat. And he's like, oh, I've now just got these guys standing with their dicks in the wind. And I was like, yeah, boy. So I think we all learned something in that game, which was really nice. So happy days all around. My MVPs were the Exocrines here, because he was constantly taking things that kill stuff rather than his Feel No Pain, which gave me an awesome opportunity just to blow 8-bound out of the sky, which was fun. So yes, all right. We then got on to game 6, I believe, and this was against Alex with his CSM. I looked at his list. It was loads of possessed. It's loads of Marines. It's a bit of cultists. We've got some predators and stuff, but I was like, hey, this seems like World Eaters again. All these possessed, with advance and charge possessed, with the guy leading them. I was like, they've got scout and advance and charge. What the hell? Yeah, so more angry power armor. I was like, hey, is this the fourth World Eaters list I've played? But yeah, Alex, again, nice guy. I've been very lucky to have played cool guys the entire weekend. Lots of possessed, and I obviously know from the previous game that my exocrines do really well into 8-bound, and these guys have no feel, no pain, so they can play at abandon. There was no Vindicator as well, which I was really pleased to see because my monsters hate Vindicators. I underestimate this list hugely. I pushed forward my T-Fexes and I deployed a lot of stuff on the line because I just thought, if he charges me, I'm not that bothered. He won't kill it. It's fine. AP1, yeah, fine, no problem. So I put nothing touching my home objectives that he could get to turn 1 so that he doesn't get the extra AP. But he turned out with that 6-man possessed unit and the Master Executions straight for the Carnifexes and bodied both Carnifexes, leaving all one eye on his own. Poor old one eye. His friends just die as soon as they get charged. So eventually got rid of them, so that was fine. And then I pushed T-Fexes up either side, and you can see them here. The one on the top there got absolutely bodied straight away, dead. And I was like, oh my god, this is a disaster. I've lost a T-Fex already. And then the other one just kind of got tied up in combat with possessed behind a wall, so it couldn't even shoot. I mean, luckily he brought in his predators and stuff here, so I had something to shoot at. But I was like, oh, this is a disaster. So at that point, I think it's like turn 2 or 3. I'm like, oh my god, I'm panicking now because I'm not scoring primary. I'm not doing great here at all. I need to push. So we pushed up with the Termagants and really tried to, grind out the win, and we did in the end, but only by 7 points. So to be honest, I won by going second, to be quite honest, right? And that's fair. Probably my luckiest game of the weekend to squeak out that win. The World Eaters game against Andy Plummer, also very lucky, because again, I think I won that one by going second, essentially. So again, the MVPs here with the Exocrines because they just tore up the Possessed and Marines. And the Turv again was awesome in this game. She just moved around here and onto the middle objective, and she won she kept hold of that point in the last turn. So yeah, big fan of her. All right, and then we go on to my last game actually. So I thought I was that game 6. It's game 6. It was game 7. My last game into Kylo. So Kylo's one of those names you always see on the UKTC. He's always playing games. He's very good. He has a few different armies, I think. But he's known for Knights and Custodies. I won't lie, I'm pretty wiped out at this game because that game previously, again, I think I was complacent and then I got the win in the end. But I had to graft my ass off to get it. So I'm wiped out at this point. And, excuse me, I won't lie, I didn't really know how this game was going to go, but after he one-shotted a Carnifex and then killed a bunch of Gaunts, I was like, sorry, one-shotted a T-Fex and killed a lot of Gaunts, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of checking out a little bit. I went and got a pint and some pork scratchings, guys. So yeah, I haven't played Custodies in ages, but I mean, I was like, okay, so is there anything I need to know? And what I needed to know was 5+ crits and sustained wounds. As you can see, this is how many people I have. This is how many Gaunts I have left after I think turn 3. It was pretty savage. So yeah, it was one of those. Kylo's really good, and he was very much like on form. He was fully energetic. He knew his stuff, and I think I could have given him a game if we played again. I think he probably would win again, to be honest, because he just knew his stuff. He knows his faction inside out, and I don't know this matchup inside out at all. I mean, who plays Custodians anymore? Come on, Kylo. I didn't really touch his army at all. 2-up saves was really hard for me to get into. The Exocrines got kind of bodied straight away, and you can see I got them into the places I wanted, but because I didn't have the Gaunts to protect them, they just got charged, and that was that. So that was the 8 games. So let's just summarize real quickly. So the builds, I needed to be more consistent in the melee matchups. If I'm going to screen really well turn 1, which I did in all my games, I need to screen really well turn 2 as well. That's something to really get right. Point 2. So I put Old One Iron Friends in the list because I thought this unit's amazing. It's just gone down in points. It's literally an awesome unit. Why isn't people like Sampo putting this in his list? And I see why now. Because the list is all about delaying and being defensive with the termagants, in my humble opinion. You try and delay people coming at you and taking objectives and what have you. And then you take them back and you basically bully them on primary until they overextend, and then you punch them back, right? You punch them back with your exocrines. 2 exocrines is not enough for this strategy. You need the third one, 100%. Because Old One Eye and Carnifexes are super aggressive, what I was doing was giving the screen, but then also putting the Carnifexes out there, essentially giving my opponent two things to engage with and 2 things to kill. Yes, it puts pressure on him with the Carnifexes, or her with the Carnifexes, but actually you can kind of deal with that. If it was just the termagants that went out, my opponent doesn't really have an option. They just have to deal with the termagants, and when they do, if in combat or sticking their heads out to shoot, 3 exocrines and 2 T-Fexes is how you body them back. I think in this list, the difference between 2 exocrines and 3 is huge. So with hindsight, I've gone back to that list. I'm not sure about the Hive Tyrant. I think I'm still playing around with it a little bit, but definitely 3 exocrines and All One Iron Friends is great, but in a different style of list, in my humble opinion. Yeah, as I put in the second point here, Hive Tyrant would be nice, but I just think I prefer more output. Again, seeing those World Eaters games where my opponent just, like, and the Space Wolves game where my opponent just went, I'm just going to put everything out, and what are you going to do about it? I need to be able to do something about it, and a Hive Tyrant doesn't do anything about it. And then 3 of my losses were because, so 3 of my losses, I think I just pushed too hard too early, and I didn't get to play a 5-turn game. I ended up playing a 3-turn game. I mean that by as in I was probably too aggressive, and I shouldn't have been aggressive. I should have been more defensive. So that's that. In fact, I then the weekend after this event, took the army to basically I went back to Sam Pope's original list, except with a flying Hive Tyrant instead of normal Hive Tyrant because of the points changes. And I managed to get a 3rd place, which I was really happy with. I played 3 games, 1 against a CSM, 1 against Space Marines, Anvil Siege Force. Come on, guys! Like, if I lost Anvil Siege Force, I'm in trouble. Only kidding. It's a great detachment, sure. But that was on Purge the 4. I was very happy that I won on Purge the 4. I really managed the game well, and it was a solid game. And then I got a 1-point victory against Astra Militarum. Neil's a local player, very good with guard. It's the only army he has. They are beautiful as well. But I was losing by turn 2. I was like, oh god, I'm going to get a 2-1 here. But I grafted my backside off to get a 1-point win and put myself back in the game, so I was quite happy. Ended up with 3rd place, which was quite nice. I mean, look at my score. My scores aren't bad, but my opponent, my competitors had better scores. So well done. Jack actually won he came 2nd, I believe. Yeah, and then Sam Bodger, who's on our Discord, got 1st. So yeah, really nice event. So there's my learnings. If you're going to change your list, be really confident, have the practice games, and try and understand what the list is trying to do. Is it an aggressive list? Is it a defensive list? Blah, blah, blah. And then are the units that you want to add in, are they adding to that strategy, or are they counter to that strategy? That would be my big takeaway. Cool, nice. And then that is the end. That's the end, guys. Let's just see if the chat. I've just monologued for that long. I probably didn't have my speakers on or something. Yeah, cool. Let's have a look at the chat there. So we have. Oh wow, there's been a fair bit. So, Christopher Richardson, hope you're all right. Yeah, I'm all right, man. My voice is okay. The first time I had an endoscopy, I couldn't speak for about 4 weeks. Like, it was just, I might have done a show while I was like talking like a gravelly guy. It was horrible and super painful. Not fun. Sorry, this is not to do with tyrannids, but I woke up during the endoscopy and could not breathe. And I was like, and then in the end, they pumped me more full of the air that kind of knocks you out or whatever it is. I had a thing in my wrist and it completely knocked me out again. The next thing I knew, I was in my kitchen eating last night's pizza. Like, it was bizarre. Very fun times. And then Chris Richardson, I've used 20 Hormigants in a similar role to the Carnifexes to essentially muscle off an enemy objective, be harder to kill than people think, and the 5-up feel no pain, and then they have guns ready to capitalise after. Yeah, I think that's a great shout. I think there's such a variety of gun platforms out there and like aggressive like shooting. I think of everything from even Votan Terminators. They're the ones that have scarred me the most. The Votan Terminators with the blast weapons, even the Alaris Terminators and Custodes. Um, like I think there's just stuff that kills 20 Hormigans when they're out in the open. I like Greg's take on it, which you can see from the last show where I interviewed Greg on. He's 6'2" at this event. He does the hokey pokey like I do with the Termagants, but he does it with Hormigans, and I think that's probably a good shout. Yes, I think for that side of the board though, I think you can just use a T-Fex and an Exocrine, and then use bodies like Hormigans. I don't know if I'd use 20, but I'd maybe use 10 or something cheap, just to kind of like delay my opponent getting towards those units. Cool. Yeah, and the 6++ gaming show. Bugs. Hi, John Scrivo. Hope you're well, mate. Cool. So that's it. That is the show. We will have more Bugwatch in about 2 weeks. Actually, so I'll hopefully have come back from the Hertfordshire GT, where I'll probably be taking Sam Pope's list with a twist. One more in line with the how the list is supposed to play, and I'll probably just talk to John about that. John will be able to tell us about his ITT experience because he's taking the NIDs. I'm not going to spoil what he's taking, but I'm very happy he's taking it. It's going to be very cool. Going to be a really, really good show, that one, guys. Yeah, and that's it from me, guys. I will catch you later. Have a good one. Bye.